Good evening, good morning, good night, good afternoon, according to your latitude and place. Let me say a few words in order to, on behalf of the boards of directors of our charity Foundation for Salutogenesis. We are more than happy to host this evening a distinguished, very distinguished lecturer, Dr. Igor Berkhin. And I thank very much Igor for his kind disponibility to deliver this speech. And I thank Edith Pucci Casadei very much for her kind disponibility to translate into Italian. This occasion is, in our opinion, of extreme importance because the topic Igor Berkhin will outline is of extreme importance, at least under three dimensions: the social, the bioethical, the anthropological, and obviously the spiritual. Let me outline briefly the curriculum of Igor Berkhin. Igor Berkhin, born in 1968 in Donetsk and now lives in Israel. He graduated in mathematics in 1991 at Donetsk State University, then USSR. He's fluent in Russian, English, basic in French, Spanish, Italian. He has been practicing Buddhist meditation for over 30 years. He has more than 12 years of experience teaching secular mindfulness to a broad range of audiences, such as universities, yoga centers, the IT industry. He created an online course, 28 days meditation, for the Russian edition of Yoga Journal, which immediately attracted almost 7,000 participants. Since 2012, he has been annually teaching a special course, Basic of Meditation for Psychologists and Psychotherapists, for the students of Moscow Institute of Psychoanalysis. The very first course on meditation for Russian college students in University of Moscow. He also taught to a group of teachers from the Moscow Gestalt Institute. Besides specialized courses for yoga practitioners, psychologists, etc., Igor Berkhin is providing some special programs, such as cognitive introspection for phenomenological, exploring one's mind from the first person perspective, freedom of mind for detecting and neutralizing psychological manipulation, mindful thinking for integrating mindful presence with an intellectual activity. In 2016, he became a co-founder and speaker at the first international and interdisciplinary conference, Crystal Mind, on mindfulness, awareness, and secular meditation, held in Russia. He is also one of the co-founders of the Association of Russian-Speaking Mindfulness Teachers. In summer 2016, he presented meditation at the Moscow Urbanistic Forum, organized by the mayor of Moscow, and then the Forum of the Agencies of Strategic Initiatives, patronized by the President of Russia. Igor gave courses and retreats in more than 20 countries, including the UK, Italy, Switzerland, Israel, Germany, and France. We are so proud to host tonight Igor's speech. And with such a speech, Dr. Berkhin starts also his collaboration with our foundation. Let me say, last but not least, a big hug to all sisters and brothers of Vajra attending Igor conference. Igor conference is for us a step to start for future initiative in such a field. And let me remind also that Igor Berkhin is one of the most authoritative instructor in Dzogchen fields in the Dzogchen community. And he has been authorized by Chogyal Namkhay Norbu Rinpoche to teach Santima Sangha, a special program to deepen Dzogchen teachings. So now the floor is yours, Igor. Thank you so much once more.
Oh, thank you very much, Paolo, for your kind presentation. And good evening, everybody, and also good time of the day, everybody. I'm happy to see all of you, even though I cannot come to Italy, and I really love Italy, and I'm always happy to come to Italy, and at least I can be present virtually in Italy. So, meno male. Scusate, io non parlo italiano abbastanza bene per fare questa lezione. So, we are talking about manipulations, and I personally believe in coincidence. Then when something important is happening, then there is always some kind of coincidence. And this time the coincidence is that yesterday evening, my evening, or also the evening of most of you, there was a big discussion on Clubhouse. This is a new social network where people can only talk with each other, no written communication at all. So there was a big discussion about manipulation versus influence. And of course, in the very way how this topic is presented, manipulation versus influence, it creates an idea of one is good and one is bad. Yeah. And therefore, it was very natural that the discussion went more in terms of ethics. What can we consider like ethical thing and non-ethical thing? And by default, manipulation is considered something unethical, and influence can be considered ethical. But of course, this is all relative, just to understand if there is a difference. And I'm not really going to go into linguistic discussions, which word refers to what, and I'm more interested in ontology. But the fact that mostly the most important issue was ethical is actually very important, because whether we call it influence or manipulation, or we can call it also persuasion, this refers to some fact that we can influence other people's behavior. First of all, behavior. And not only behavior we can influence, we can also influence the way how people feel, we can influence the way how people think, believe, what kind of dreams they have, etc. So we can influence other people, and of course, this is a two-way road. Other people can also influence us. So not only we are manipulating, but also other people are manipulating us. Not only we are influencing other people, but also other people are influencing us. And of course, it depends upon our intention, whether this can be beneficial influence or non-beneficial influence. And not only that, we can have the best intentions, but the result, the outcome is not always what we expect, and is not always good for people, also for us. Yeah. So, but in general, when we say as a topic of our meeting, we say that how we use contemplative methods, methods of meditation, awareness, mindfulness, whatever, to recognize and to neutralize psychological manipulations. Already we can see that there is some negative connotation. If there were no negative connotation, we wouldn't need an antidote. We would be just enjoying or staying neutral to that. So why we need to recognize and neutralize? Because people are manipulating, and people very often are not ethical, and they pursue their own interest, their own benefit at our cost. Yeah. And of course, sometimes we also do the same, because we are normal people, we are egoistic, and we need to survive in this world. Because the very fact why people are manipulating each other in order to gain something is an evolutionary feature. We need to survive. We need to eat, we need to have shelter, we need to continue our genes. And sometimes for this we need to fight. And we are not fighting so much these days, but sometimes instead of fighting, I mean physical fight, instead of physical fighting, we do psychological fight. And this is the situation of the human beings. Maybe we don't like this situation, but it is like this. So we don't really need to blame people for manipulating, because maybe this is the only way how they can be in this world. We are not blaming wolves, for example, that they are eating meat. Of course, there are some people who are trying to make everyone eat only vegetables, but you cannot teach, you cannot persuade a wolf to eat vegetables, or a lion, or some other beings, some other animals. So this is not the point that we are going to change somebody intentionally and forbid them to do something. But also we can influence, and we can influence from our example, we can influence from our presence. We will talk about this a little bit later, but we will go into the nature of manipulations, into the structure of manipulations, to understand how manipulations are performed, what kind of triggers, what kind of mechanism they are using. And then we can also see that the mechanism which are used by manipulators are also evolutionary mechanism, evolutionary patterns, evolutionary ways of behavior and response and reaction, but it's a kind of a life hack. Then we know how people are reacting, and we can use these for our own good. We can also use it for the good of other people. And this is where the ethical issues are relevant. So when we're talking about manipulation, it means that we want to influence other person. We want to modify other person. But what are we going to modify? When we want to manipulate, what we want to modify? Number one is what people do. So when we want to manipulate people, we want them to do certain things. But not only that, we also want to refrain. We want them to refrain from doing certain things. We want them to go somewhere, but we don't want them to go to other places. So first of all, we need some kind of action. What kind of action can there be?
Sorry. 1 minute. Edit, please raise your volume of translation, please. It's not possible. Okay, so please go on. Sorry. Okay, so what can be the purpose of manipulation? Then we want somebody to buy something from us, or we want somebody to do some service for us. Sometimes we just pay. This is not a manipulation. We pay to people and they do some service for us.
But sometimes we don't want to pay, or maybe it's not possible to pay. So we need to persuade a person to do something for us, and maybe we need to manipulate. Yeah, we can use a stick and carrot. Yeah, we can threaten people, or we can promise something, or we can just fool people, cheat them, etc. And we want them basically to do something or refrain from doing certain things. Yeah? And this is number one. But sometimes we want to manipulate people in order for them to feel something, yeah? To experience different feelings, or it can also be to believe something. Yeah? For example, the missionaries that would, like few centuries ago, missionaries would go all over the world and converting people into Christianity, or like Islamic countries where a few centuries ago they were spreading, Islam was spreading, and people were being converted into Islam, etc. So this is what religions are doing. They're converting people, making people think different way, making people believe different way. Also in the 20th century, you could see this when the communist ideas were spreading, or Nazi ideas, fascist ideas were spreading. So of course, I'm coming from the Soviet Union, and most of the audience is in Italy. So we know very well the history of our countries. And the way it was done, people were converted, their way of thinking was changed dramatically, and it had its results when people are changing. And these results reflected in people's behavior. So not only behavior, but also the way people feel. So we may want to change people's beliefs, people's ideas, and also people's judgment. So this is also the mental level, not just the level of physical action, not just the level of how we feel, like what kind of emotions we feel, but also on the level of ideology. So we want people to change, we can influence. Yeah? And the reasons, as I already said, could be different. And what are basic factors that are included, that participate in the process of influence, manipulation, persuasion, whatever? So now we are not going into the ethical discussion, whether it's ethical or non-ethical, beneficial or non-beneficial, but we go just into how our minds work and how these mechanisms of manipulations, they work. So the thing number one, that if you want to influence somebody else's behavior or somebody else's attitudes, beliefs, etc., the thing number one, we have to catch this person's attention. So this is number one. If you don't catch attention, it's very, very difficult to influence people. So we need to grab their attention, to intercept their attention, to hijack their attention. And starting from 70s and then later in 2000s, well, about 20 years ago, the idea of economy of attention appeared. So it appeared in 70s, but it received much attention, again, attention in after 2000, 2001, basically when we had internet and internet spread all over. And the idea of economy of attention is that attention is a resource. Yeah? It's a resource. So if you look at the history of mankind, the history of our civilization, then we can see that first of all, in the beginning, what had value? It was just material resources, mainly material resources like food or water or gold, etc. So something that basically we need to survival and for basic social interactions. But then people started to travel, and then we can see that what was the resource, new resource? The new resource was the transportation. Yeah? Who controls the pathways? This is the resource. They can use it for improving their lives, for gaining wealth. So you don't need to produce something, but you need to control the transportation of goods, yeah? International trade. Yeah? So like ports or like Silk Road, etc. So this is the resource. And then humanity was developing, and then there was another resource. Of course, what I'm saying is not exhaustively covering the whole situation, the whole history of mankind, but just very briefly. Then the next resource was technology. Then we need a technology. We don't need to invent a technology. We can get a technology, yeah? Or we can develop a technology, and this becomes a resource. So people started to fight for the technology. So this is like industrial espionage started eventually. Because if we have information, if you have technology, we have power. Yeah? So technologies and information is also a resource. But now, these days, when we have like excessive production of goods, etc., and it becomes much more easy to produce something than to sell it. And if you want to sell something, what do we need? We need to catch the attention of people. So attention is a resource. This is a kind of a raw material. We cannot use the attention per se. Yeah? We cannot, what do we do with attention? Sometimes we just want somebody's attention. Please listen to me. I want to tell you something. I need some human communication. So in this way, the attention of somebody else is like a final product that we need. But in general, in our economy, in our world, attention is a subproduct. So we need somebody's attention in order to sell. So we need to catch attention and to persuade this person to buy our product. And not only that, because like in ancient time, there were no democracy. Yeah. Of course, there was something in Greece and in some other countries from time to time, but mostly there was no democracy. And now we have a democracy. And what democracy is based on? The democracy is based on election. But then how you persuade people to vote for you? You need to persuade, you need to influence, you need to manipulate people to make them vote for you. And in order to persuade them, you need to grab their attention. So you see, when we have a democracy, and there are many good features about democracy, but nothing is as manipulative as democracy. No, monarchy is not isn't nearly as manipulative as democracy. Authoritarian regimes, they can be manipulative, but in a different way. But in this way of grabbing attention and manipulating people, democracy is a fantastic field, and political manipulations are flourishing in democratic countries, because all politicians are competing and they want to grab your attention to make you vote for them, or at least not vote for their rivals. So this is how attention is becoming a resource. And another thing, besides like selling things or doing service or voting, etc., in our ordinary life, like for example, one of the big fields for manipulations is sex. So we need sex. Most people need sex. Not only for continuing our genes. Maybe we don't care about continuing our genes, but somehow we have this need. And there are so many books about pickup and how to persuade somebody to have sex with you or marry you, etc. So this is another big field of for manipulation. And very often it is not at all ethical. Yeah, and sometimes it's very strange. Of course, we have it since the beginning of humanity. All these sexual magic, etc., like making, putting a control, imposing a control over people's desires, etc. So, but all of this mainly is based on grabbing attention. So, trade, politics, sex, other fields, all requires attention. And attention is our resource. And this resource is not infinite. It's not solar energy. It's not wind energy. It's a very limited resource. We cannot pay our attention to anything. You see, in English language, it fits very well. We say pay attention. Yeah. So attention is a kind of a currency that we are paying. Yeah. In real sense, this is a currency which is extorted from us mainly. Sometimes we are paying, we are investing our attention. We are investing our attention in order to learn something, for example, to know something, to develop skills. This is when we are paying attention. But sometimes we are just robbed. Our attention is just robbed. You see, these high-tech giants like Google and Facebook, what are they doing? They are accumulating our attention, and they are reselling this attention. Yeah, because they produce nothing. Yeah. Google and Facebook produce nothing, zero, nil, niente, yeah? But they accumulate our attention and then they resell it for big money. So you see, they are interested in our attention and we don't have so much attention. So we should be careful with our attention, and we need to learn somehow how to preserve attention. And for this reason, we need awareness. What kind of awareness we need here? We need awareness of where our attention is at the present moment, because we are not always in control. So we can know that there is a involuntary attention. Like, for example, the door slams, and then we jump a little bit and our attention is redirected from what we were attending to something else, to the sound of the door, or like car is passing, dog is barking, telephone is ringing, etc. So, for example, you can hear the bike pass, yeah, and it's grabbing our attention. So this is called involuntary attention. But this involuntary attention is not only directed outside, it also can be directed inside when we fall into our daydreaming, when we fall into our thoughts about different things, about things which are important for us. And this is a kind of a compulsive thinking, and we fall into that thinking and we don't even know. You know, when somebody is asking you, what are you thinking about now? Oftentimes, we cannot answer this question. No, you know, sometimes you can find certain lists in pop culture magazines. You can find a list like the question that a woman should never ask a man. Yeah, and in the top of these questions is, don't ask your man what he is thinking about. Why? He's going to lie. Yeah, mainly, or he just doesn't know. It's not only that he lies, but probably he doesn't know. Do we always know what we are thinking about? No. And this is our experience. So sometimes somebody is asking us, what are you thinking about? But we were distracted, so we don't even know what we are thinking about. Yeah? And then if you're a man and you have a jealous wife and she's asking you, what are you thinking about? Then if you're clever, you say, oh, of course I'm thinking about you. Yeah. And of course, this is a truth. Yeah? Why? Because now when I'm saying these words, I'm thinking already, I'm no longer thinking about what I was thinking before when you asked me this stupid question, but now I'm thinking about you, darling. Yeah. So, and of course, there are some stupid men who also ask this question, yeah, to their partners or etc. And the result is basically the same. So the point is, but the point I want to make is not that we are lying, yeah, but the point I want to make is that it is not always that we know that what we are thinking about, and we don't even notice the very fact that we fell into thinking, and we are not perceiving the real world. Yeah? We are distracted with our thoughts, and this is called involuntary attention, yeah? Which can be directed outside to sensory stimuli, or it can be directed inside to our thoughts, to our thinking. And this is involuntary attention. But there is also voluntary attention when we want to attend something. For example, you want to listen to this talk, so you have to direct your attention to what I'm saying. Yeah, but it's not totally voluntary. Yeah, because also the way I'm speaking, if I want to be a speaker, if I want to be a good speaker, then I need to have a capacity to attract the attention. So this is a two-way road. This is a kind of collaboration. I'm telling you something interesting in a way which is attracting attention. Yeah, you can imagine. I could be saying exactly the same things, like, but you know, say attention. It's so interesting. So it is so important that we have economy of attention, and people are trying to get our attention. Yeah. So for how long could you be listening like this? Yeah. For how long? After 5 minutes, you would puke. Yeah. So there should be some energy in that. There should be some attraction. And but you're also interested, because if you're not interested, even somebody is very, very charismatic, but you're not interested, you don't listen to. So this is about voluntary attention. So you direct your attention deliberately. You want to study, you want to read the book, you want to watch the movie, you want to listen to the music. And then somebody is interfering and interrupting you and grabbing your attention. Somebody of your relatives at home, etc., or telephone is ringing. How do you feel? You don't like it because it is distracting. And also, redirecting attention is very demanding in terms of resources. In general, our brain consumes a lot of energy. The estimate is 25%. I don't really know how they measured, but I met this figure many times also in like in scientific literature, say 25%. And out of these 25%, a lot of resources is spent for maintaining attention and for redirecting our attention. And of course, if somebody wants to grab our attention, first of all, it is they use involuntary attention. They somehow attract us with some movement of color, some movement of sound, etc. But you can see it every day when you are browsing in the internet. You can see it always. Then somebody is like some advertising is popping up and catching your attention. And then you go to a website, and then they immediately propose you to receive news, great news about this website. Yeah? And I always say no, because I don't want these news, because it's always popping up. It's distracting. So this is attention. Yeah? And then we spend our attention. So instead of reading something, our attention is redirected to some advertising. And then we lose track, and then we discover that we find ourselves doing something completely alien, something that we did not expect ourselves to do, reading something, watching something, talking to someone, etc., instead of what we wanted to do, reading the book. So it means that we need to have a control over our attention. Yeah? And attention is one of the basic cognitive functions. And in real sense, attention is something that we learn from the very childhood, from the birth. We learn to focus our attention, to direct our attention on certain things or certain fields of perception. But usually we are not taught and we don't learn how to control our attention, how to be aware where our attention is directed at the moment. And this is, I call it metacognitive skill, because it's a kind of a skill of a higher order when we know what we are thinking about, when we know what we are attending to, when we notice how our attention is shifting, how our attention is being redirected and changes its focus. And how can we learn this skill? We can learn this skill through contemplative practices, through the practice of one-pointed attention, one-pointed concentration. And there are many courses on that. And the basic thing is that we choose a kind of a support. So this support, it can be breathing, which is the most popular thing, but it can be also some physical object, or it can be a sound. And then we attend to that. And we are primed that if we discover that our attention moved to somewhere else, we need to return it back, to bring it back to the support, to the breathing, to a kind of image, like a colored ball or statue of some deity or some picture, or maybe some kind of sound, etc. Sound of mantra or sound of some musical instrument, or just sound of wind or fire or water, etc. Doesn't matter. But the point is that as soon as we notice that our attention is hijacked and our attention is at some other place, then as soon as we notice it, we bring it back. And this is how we are training. This is how we are exercising. And after some time of this exercise, we reach the point when not only we can notice that our attention is already at some other place, but we start to notice when our attention is moving towards something else, not yet changed, but it is already moving. So at first, we feel it a kind of teleporting process, like we were here and now we are completely in a completely different place. Like, for example, now we are talking and maybe you're attending, but that at some other moment you find that you are, okay, at your work, yeah? Or maybe you find yourself at the beach, yeah? Or in the mountains, and you didn't notice how it happened. So when we exercise, when we train our awareness in the way that we are able to notice that we got distracted, and we are able to bring our mind back, our attention back to the support, then we acquire a capacity. After some time, we acquire a capacity to notice when our attention is starting a kind of like trembling or moving to some other place. And this is a crucial point, because then we don't let it do it. We don't let it go to some other place. And if you ask me how we don't let it go, I will tell you somehow. Yeah, somehow. This is a secret. Yeah. And many things that we do is a secret. And we can do. I can give you an example. Yeah. So try to raise your hand. Okay, raise your hand. Oh, do something else. Do some kind of movement. Okay, you're raising your hand. Then, if I ask you how you did it, can you explain me? Can you explain me how did you raise your hand? How? How did you manage? It's not easy, no? to explain, because of course you know how to raise your hand, right? You know, because you did it. I just saw with my own eyes, yeah, that you did it. But you can't explain it. So sometimes maybe we have a condition that we cannot raise our hand, yeah. And then what do we do in this situation when we cannot raise our hand? Yeah? Then somebody's telling, but it's easy, you know, how you do? You do like this. Hey, I wish I could, yeah? But we can't. Yeah? Like maybe we are sick, yeah? Maybe we lose mobility. Yeah? Maybe we are just getting old. Yeah? Maybe we even die. Yeah? Yeah? Then when we die, we definitely, it's very difficult. If you die, it's very difficult to raise our hands. Yeah. Yeah. Even somebody is coming with a machine gun and saying, "Hände hoch." Sorry, guy. Yeah, we can. Yeah. So we don't know how we are raising our hands and many other things. Yeah. We don't know. We cannot explain it. Yeah. If somebody is asking us, we can't explain. So in the same way, if you are asking, but how can I withhold my attention, not letting it move to something else when it's starting to move, there is no answer that could be explained in words, but we can have this experience after some training, maybe after a few hours of training, maybe after a few days of training, maybe for some people, maybe after a week of training or even months of training, but it is possible. And then we discover, wow. And this is a crucial moment for controlling our attention, because we are present, we are mindful, we are attentive, not attentive to something which is happening outside, but we are attentive to how our attention, how this laser beam or vector of our attention is moving and where it is directed. So in this way, if we are training, if we are controlling this, then it is possible to acquire the capacity of preserving our attention and of spending our attention the way we want, not the way somebody wants, not the way how it just happens naturally when our attention is dissipating and we just leave some piece here, some piece there, and then we are left with no attention. But the way we want. And what we also can learn this way when we are doing this kind of meditation, this kind of contemplative practice, is we discover some kind of a neutral state. So through some kind of training, when this state of non-being distracted becomes natural and does not really require much effort, we can also acquire a kind of a neutral state. Neutral state, why is it important? This neutral state is important for redirection, for redirecting our attention deliberately. It does not really relate directly to manipulations, but I think this is an important thing. Yeah, that it's like a gearbox in our car. If we have a mechanical cohesion, mechanical transmission, then we need, if you want to change the speed, we need to go through a neutral position. So from the first to second, we go through neutral. From the second to third, we go through neutral. From the third to reverse movement, we have to go through neutral. In this way it works. So if we have this kind of neutral state, if we discover that, it becomes much easier for us to redirect deliberately our attention and to take our attention from where we are attending to and direct it to some other place. Because it is not always easy, because when we got stuck with something, we were attending, and now we want to redirect our attention, but we can't. So when we acquire mastery over our attention, when we discover this neutral state, when we discover how our attention is moving, then we can easily, without much effort, bring our attention back and redirect it. And this is how we become masters of our own attention. Of course, there are strong stimuli which we maybe are not able to control. Like, for example, it can be very strong pain, which is striking, and then we cannot control our attention. But even in this case, there are some possibilities. So this is about attention. And this is number one. And then what we can also use, and why we can use other things. What is related to attention, in general. And there is some discovery in psychology which says that we attend to what is important. So when we feel that something is important, it stimulates our attention. Yeah, like, for example, let's make an experiment. Okay, so I don't know from which field of human knowledge you are. Some of you, I know. Some people that I can see on the screen, I know, but many people I don't know. But it doesn't matter. So think of people who are important for you. Like, maybe if you are like a spiritual person, maybe you can think about enlightened beings or saints, etc. Some spiritual teachers, very important, etc. And maybe if you work in finance, then who can be important for you? Like people from Forbes 500, for example. Or if you are a scientist, then maybe it can be Nobel Prize winners. Or if you're working in movies, then maybe it can be Oscar winners. So somebody who is important, and you don't really know how these people look like. So then I propose you, now we are in Zoom, and then maybe you're watching just me, but I propose you to switch into gallery view, to switch into gallery view to see many people on your screen. To check many people on your screen. So maybe you can see like 25 people on your screen. If it's a computer, maybe like less people if it's a tablet or a phone, but at least you see a few people. And make yourself think that the people that you see, maybe you don't know them, these are very important people. So if such thing as enlightenment is important for you, then imagine that these are enlightened people who are in the same room, even though it's a Zoom room, but it is a room, in the same room with you. Or maybe these are people from Forbes 500, and they are here, and they see you. They can also see you. So make this shift of awareness. Reframe your situation. And look at these people. And try to project that this is an enlightened being. Don't project on me, because if you are projecting all together on me, then I feel a little bit heavy, you know. So choose somebody else on the screen. So just imagine that these are important people. How do you feel? How do you feel? Do you feel some change in your condition? Wave your hand if you feel something. If you feel some change. Yeah, you see, we just reframed our situation and we added just something important. This is also a kind of a manipulation, no? But this is a kind of experiment that we can see. We bring some feeling of importance into our perception, into our awareness, and immediately the mode of our attention change. So maybe we could feel a little bit relaxed and not paying much attention, but then if you try, if you change, if you reframe our situation, then immediately we feel motivated to listen more attentively, to present ourselves in a better way, yeah? Not in like relaxed way, like a cat on a sofa, you know, yeah? But more alert. Yeah? So the feeling of importance is making us more alert. Yeah? It means we can concentrate better. Yeah? So when there is something important, this importance keeps our attention, attracts our attention. But this importance is an inner thing, yeah? It's not an external thing. You see something and there is no importance in what we see, but the importance is our feeling. So we bring this importance, or somebody is stimulating this feeling of importance, connecting it to something which is happening in front of you. Yeah? So when there is something important, then we attend it. Yeah? And the other way around is exactly the same. Yeah? When we attend something, the more we attend something, the more important it becomes for us. Yeah? That's why, for example, it's very interesting. I think in this yesterday meeting on Clubhouse, somebody gave an example. Yeah? You know that in 30s there were it was the rise of propaganda, yeah? And there is this famous quote from somebody from the Third Reich that for the people to believe your lie, this lie should be huge, it should be great, it should be so big that you would never think that somebody ever dared to lie like that, you know, too big for being a lie. Then people believe, yeah. But it was in 30s. So nowadays the story is a bit different, yeah? And the story is that the same thing, the same lie is being repeated over and over again. And then it becomes important because you meet it over and over again. Yeah. And then when you meet it over and over again, you start to believe it. Yeah? I give a simple example that we had about like maybe 20 years ago or something like this. Yeah. Because like everywhere they were saying all the time, chemical weapons in Iraq, chemical weapons in Iraq, chemical weapons in Iraq. Yeah. And people started to believe, everybody started to believe that there was chemical weapon in Iraq. And finally, they found no chemical weapon in Iraq, yeah, when they invaded it. Yeah? So this is an example. But to manipulate the public consciousness for avoiding protests, yeah, you need to repeat, and it grabs attention. And then it creates a feeling of insecurity and the feeling of righteousness and the feeling of some kind of urge. And then it creates thinking. Yeah. So the second aspect, the second factor of manipulation is emotion, feeling. Yeah. We need to feel something. Because even we could grab the attention, then you need to pin it, yeah? You need to fix this attention, to fix with connecting it to something important. And important means that it has an emotional response, yeah? So this emotional response can be different. It can be attachment, it can be anger, it can be jealousy, it can be fear, etc. It can be different, but there should be an emotion. Why? Why should there be an emotion? Because we want this person, or this person wants us. Yeah? if we are being manipulated, a person wants us to do something. But for doing something, we need energy. Where does this energy come from? Huh? This energy comes from disbalance. Yeah? Like, for example, how we walk. Yeah? Just notice how we walk. What we should do to start walking. We move out of balance. Yeah? Because we walk using gravity. Yeah? So for not falling down, we move our leg forward, yeah, and we step. And then again, we are moving, and for not falling down, we move another leg forward. So if somebody wants us to make a step, what they do, they slightly push us. They push us enough to disbalance, yeah, to bring us out of balance. Yeah? And then we start to walk ourselves, yeah. This person who is pushing us into in our back, yeah, is not moving our legs. We move our legs ourselves, yeah, because we lost the balance, and we need to restore balance. So in the same way, if we are emotionally stable and we are fine, yeah, we don't want to act. So there should be some kind of disbalance to make us act, yeah. There should be some kind of need that makes us act. Yeah, there should be some kind of scarcity. Yeah, some kind of emptiness that we feel, and we need to fill this emptiness with our action. Yeah, so emotion creates disbalance, and emotion creates energy for us, either to do something, to move, yeah, to run somewhere. For example, to join protesters. Yeah. Why am I talking about this? In general, I didn't say it in the beginning why this topic is particularly important for me, for example. Yeah? Because the country where I lived for many years, the Ukraine, was destroyed by psychological manipulations, media manipulations. People were manipulated, and they gathered, and they performed a coup. They performed a takeover, armed takeover, yeah? Ousting the president, yeah, and taking power. Why? Because they were manipulated. No? Not because they were treated badly. No. Since then, they're treated much worse, and they are not protesting. Yeah. The point was a manipulation. And there was a positive manipulation and negative manipulation. There was a carrot and there was a stick. And so people were manipulated, and they were brought on streets. And they did what those people who were manipulating wanted them to do. So, and this was a very bad situation for the country. And it reflected personally on me, on myself. So this is why manipulations are important, and this is why these manipulations can be dangerous. Yeah. So creating emotions, like creating emotion, rage about something that maybe it happened, maybe not, but there is a media event, and this event creates emotion. And then people, maybe this emotion is strong enough that instead of just putting like or dislike on social network, people go on streets. Yeah? So we need an emotion. And how can we deal with these emotions? Because emotions have a very, very strong power. Yeah? And sometimes we even say, it was not me who did this. Yeah? For example, we have an argument with our dear ones, yeah, with our relatives, with parents, or with a spouse, or with children, etc. We have very, very strong argument, and we say things we regret. Yeah, did it happen to you? Yeah. Wave your hand, please. if it happened to you, that you said things to your beloved ones, the things that you regretted later, yeah? Then how you feel. And then maybe you even explain, you say, I'm sorry, I was totally enraged and I did not control myself. So if you did not control yourself, who did? Anger. And sometimes we say, it was not me, it was my anger who made me do this. This is how we feel. Or it could be if we, instead of doing things, maybe we don't do things that we had to do. Yeah? Why? Maybe because we were afraid. And then we say that my fear stopped me from doing what I had to do, what was my duty. Like we could feel this, what Kant was calling this moral principle, yeah? Yeah, that some feeling how we should act, yeah? The way we should act, and we didn't act the way we should have acted, yeah? We didn't. Why? What stopped us? What prevented us from helping somebody who needed help, yeah? For example, even we feel an urge, yeah? Maybe it's a fear, yeah? It can be different fear. Maybe it's just a fear to make our clothes dirty, yeah, or wet, yeah, or maybe it's a fear that we look stupid, etc. Or maybe we are afraid of blood, yeah. So there is a blood, or maybe there are other things like dirty things, you know, because sometimes when people need help, maybe there are many dirty things that are coming out from them, out of them, yeah. And we feel, no, I feel disgust. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't help this person. Yeah, he was smelling like shit. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure that everyone could meet people who smell like shit. Yeah, in subway, for example, yeah? Or on streets. Yeah, and then for some people, it's okay that if you feel that you need to help this person, you can help this person. But for some people, they cannot go over this smell, yeah. And what stopped them? Smell? No, the smell cannot stop, yeah. It was not Novichok, no, now very famous cocktail, yeah. We don't really know if it was real or not, yeah. And this is another thing, yeah. This is another thing that we don't really know if it was real or not because there were no evidence presented, yeah. So when some guy was dismembered in Saudi Arabian embassy in Istanbul or in Ankara, yeah, there was some evidence presented to that, but for many other things there was no evidence. Oh, you hear that? Yeah, somebody is drilling. It's great. Yeah, I think this is a world government doesn't want me to talk and to disclose their manipulations. Yeah. Okay, so what we do, I think that maybe he stopped. Okay. He never did it for many months, you know? I believe in coincidence. Oh, still doing this. Okay, just 1 second. I will take my earphones and I will plug them in, and just a second. Can make us, even we are not supposed to do something, but at least we don't protest. Yeah? Then our government is saying, oh, these people are so bad, they are doing so terrible things. So then we send our army, we send our military troops to establish peace, yeah? And people do not protest, you know? When there was a Vietnamese war, and then the government didn't do this, yeah? And people protested. But then the government learned. The government, the US government took its lessons, but people didn't. Huh? So you need to learn a little bit how we are being manipulated. So the emotion how we deal with emotions, how we manage with emotions. We need to train, to exercise. Why? Because if we did not exercise and we just learn theoretically how we deal with emotions, then when emotions happens, we cannot do anything because our knowledge was purely intellectual and non-practical. Yeah. So how we can do this? We can train ourselves generating different kinds of emotions through our imagination and through our memory. So, and then we notice, we repeat, and then we notice how our bodies and our minds, how they react, yeah? How they feel, how they do. Maybe you feel you want to jump, yeah? Maybe you feel you want to go and kill somebody, yeah? Or maybe you feel you are frozen. So then at first, you need to learn how your body is reacting. Yeah, this is number one. And let us do an exercise. And I don't want you to experience any negative emotion. I'm sure you have many reasons to experience them in your ordinary life. So I want you to experience some good emotion. Yeah? And how we can do this? We can think about those we love. Yeah? We can think of somebody who makes us feel warmth and love and feeling care, etc., or feeling joy. Yeah. So if you have little children, of course, if these children are well and not sick, you can think about these little children. Maybe some of you have children, maybe some of you have grandchildren. Yeah. So think of them. Think of them. How you feel? Maybe you have, instead of a child, maybe you have a cat. Yeah. So you have a boss in your house. Yeah. So, or maybe you saw some nice animals, some nice dogs, little puppies playing, or little cats. Very, very funny. Little children, very, very funny. What do you feel? How you feel? Observe how you feel. What is changing in you, in your body? Does anything change? Do you feel anything? Or you don't? Yeah, don't say yes just because you know you have to say yes. Yeah. Because otherwise, if you say, no, I don't feel anything, then maybe I think you're a very bad person because everyone is supposed to feel something. No, the point is observe how you feel, where you feel. When you see some funny little animals or funny children, children can be very, very funny. Like when they are trying to do something and they cannot do it yet, but they are trying, yeah. And they climb somewhere and they fall. They climb and fall. It's very funny, no? And of course, if an old person is doing this, trying to climb somewhere and is falling, it's not so funny, It's not that funny. No? But if it's a child, yeah, great guy, and you see how our attention is working, yeah? So, for example, for me, of course, I have the strongest sound because it's my neighbor next floor. I don't know where he's drilling. So for me, I need to keep my attention on what I'm doing, yeah? On what I'm saying, on how you're reacting. And also at the same time, I'm trying to untie my earphones because because my earphones, I had them in my pocket yesterday when I went for a walk, and it's a little bit complicated now, but still I'm trying to do something with it. Okay, at least now he's not making a sound, and I am, yeah, okay, I have it, and he's silent, but at least it is prepared. So, and for example, when you have something important is happening, you're giving a talk, and then somebody's starting to drill and grabbing your attention. Of course, this person doesn't know that I'm giving a talk to a bunch of Italian people. Yeah? So we can feel, what the hell? What the hell? They become angry, but it doesn't make any sense to feel angry. But even though it doesn't make any sense, but we still feel angry, no? For no, you know, we are not making things, doing things that are making sense. Yeah, but we can control this anger. Huh? We can notice this wave of rage. Frankly, I didn't even notice this wave of rage, and I guess there was none. Yeah, I mean, it was fun. Not, but sometimes, for example, if it were my mother who would try to do something, forgetting that I'm giving a talk, yeah, because this guy doesn't know I'm giving a talk, but my mother does, but she forgets, yeah. But I forget that she forgets, yeah. So if she's trying to enter the room and ask me something to do, then I might feel some anger, but I'm observing this, yeah? I'm noticing this, and then I remain in this neutral state, yeah? Without generating anger. Yeah? So that's why this management, emotional management, is very, very important. And in the same way, how we provoke nice feelings, trying to remember to extract from our memory some images of somebody we love, somebody we care for, then in the same way, we can also extract negative situations. We can remember the situations in which we acted out of anger, in which we acted out of fear, or refrained from action out of fear, or refresh in our memory the situations when we felt guilt. Yeah? And guilt is one of the main triggers for manipulation, one of the main tools. Yeah, the feeling of guilt, yeah, that we are guilty, that we are not worthy, that we are bad, that we did something bad. You know, for Western civilization, guilt is a very strong thing. Yeah? Primordial sin. We are all sinners. We are all guilty. You know, Adam and Eve, they did something, but we are guilty for that. This is also our sin. We are bad, inherently bad. We can feel like this. I don't feel like this, but I know that because I was brought up in an atheistic family. Neither my father nor my mother were religious. So if you are atheistic, then you don't have this idea of original sin. But I know that many of you have this idea. At least you were brought up with this idea that you are bad, and then you have to confess and you have to repent. Confession is good, really. Confession is a good thing, but feeling guilty is not a good thing. It's one of the most terrible feelings that people can experience, and that's why this feeling is used so much for manipulating. Because when we feel guilt, we are ready to do anything, virtually anything, just for not feeling guilt anymore. And this is a huge urge. This is a huge source of energy for doing something. And of course, we don't achieve our goals for not feeling guilt anymore. But we achieve goals of the manipulator. For example, we go and wash dishes. For example, we're still feeling guilty for not washing them, but at least we washed. If that manipulation was successful. And another strong feeling, which is very broadly used for manipulations, is fear. So guilt and fear are very powerful. And in some cultures, it is mostly guilt which is being used. And in some cultures, it is mostly fear which is being used for manipulating people. So we can refresh in our memory, we can refresh the situations when we were acting out of fear, out of guilt, out of jealousy, out of anger, out of attachment, etc. And then we notice, and noticing, observing is awareness, is mindfulness. So we notice how our system is reacting. Like, for example, how our breathing is changing. Or maybe we notice how our legs and limbs, other limbs, start to tremble. Or maybe we feel that we perspire. So there can be different reactions. Also, we can feel that our muscles contract, as if we wanted to hit somebody, or as if we wanted to hide. So we notice the reactions of our body, muscular reactions, somatic reactions of different somatic functions, which are not controlled by our will, by our agency, but they just happen. So we notice this. And also we notice thoughts which are appearing, which are popping up in our heads, explaining us the situation, why we should do or we shouldn't do certain things. So we experiment with this, we train. It becomes like a training ground. We work with these emotions, and there are different ways how we learn it. And it's all based on mindfulness, awareness. And then we learn to let them go through us. So we discover how they trigger our response, how they trigger our actions, and we learn not to ban them, not to stop or block them, but to let them go through you, and then they leave no trace. So if we train like this, even there is an emotion, strong emotion, but we can let it go through us, and then this emotion is not pushing us, is not making us do something or refrain from action. So if somebody wants to trigger this emotion in us in order to make us do something or refrain from doing something, it doesn't work. Because we are aware. We are noticing how this emotion is arising. We are noticing what kind of effect it's creating in our system. And then we let it pass. We let it go through us, and we don't make an action. And of course, sometimes we need to take an action. So for this reason, we need to learn how to differentiate emotions. How to differentiate different emotions, because the same story can be with love and care. And then we apply the same method and we don't help somebody. Why? Because, we have this urge to help, this urge of compassion and love, etc. But we let it pass through us. And we didn't help. But this is not so good, no? This is not a very good idea. So we need to discriminate, to learn to discriminate attachment and love, attachment and compassion, what we feel. So sometimes we can feel, we think that this can be a compassion, a care, a love, but in real sense, this is an attachment. So we just need to experiment with ourselves and to learn to differentiate different shades of emotions. And what is the tip? How we can differentiate what is called negative emotions from what is called positive emotions. And it's very easy. It's very easy. Then, for example, if you feel negative emotions like anger, like attachment, etc., what these emotions make to our minds, yeah? They block clarity and they block calm, yeah? So they block thinking. They make our minds unclear, or they make our minds collapse into one thing and while ignoring all other things. So these negative emotions, mostly they make us to become a man or a woman of one idea. Idea fix, yeah? Maybe for 5 minutes, but these 5 minutes can be enough to do many things, yeah? So it means that we start to ignore everything else. When we are dominated by fear, when we are dominated by attachment, when we are dominated by anger, by jealousy, by guilt, etc., we become concentrated on one thing which is related to this emotion, and we lose perspective, yeah? And with good emotions, it's different. When we feel love, yeah? When we feel love, we keep perspective, yeah? If we feel compassion, we still feel perspective, yeah? And we understand other things. Love and compassion and joy do not collapse, do not make our minds collapse into one thing, yeah? We still maintain perspective, yeah? We can see other things other than something else. Like, for example, when we're experiencing joy, yeah, we can also notice that other people are joyful too, for example, yeah? We can see different circumstances. We can understand what we can do, and we can understand what we cannot do. So in this way, we can differentiate. And then, of course, if you are motivated by this kind of emotions, by positive emotions like joy, like compassion, like love, etc., even though we let them go through us, but we find it's very natural to do some good things based on these emotions. Yeah? So it's important. Otherwise, if we are just blocking emotions, it's not good. In general, we don't need to block emotions, but we need to leave them through. Otherwise, they leave traces, yeah? Traumatic traces. So, but love and compassion, they don't leave traumatic traces. Joy does not leave traumatic traces. Excessive joy, euphoria does, yeah? But general joy, no. Not traumatic, at least. There are some traces, but they're not traumatic. And we don't feel depleted after that, after feeling that. Because, for example, if we feel very strong joy, after that we feel depleted. We have ups and downs. Yeah? But with positive emotions, there is no ups and downs. Okay? You don't have a kind of a hangover. After attachment, after passion, we have a kind of a hangover. Yeah? We have an inhibition, because after first our neurons are firing, and then they experience inhibition. Yeah? But after good emotions, there is no this consequence. Okay, so if you feel real genuine love for somebody, and maybe we don't feel it anymore, but we don't feel bad after that. Yeah, we don't think that we did too much. Yeah, because when we follow attachment, then usually we do too much. Too much drinking, too much sex, too much distraction, etc. Yeah, it is joyful, yes, but we are driven by our attachment. So we need to do this kind of training exercise to learn to differentiate different shades and different aspects of our emotion. And the main tool is awareness. And the way we do this is we use our memory and our imagination in order to generate these emotions and to work with them. And another thing is also that we work with our breathing. Yeah, it is also very important when we are dealing with emotion. So it needs training. Of course, we cannot do this kind of training now. Yeah, it requires different conditions, but we can try. At least with good emotions, we can always try to generate these good emotions, and to notice how they are reflecting in your body. And then you can easily also notice how bad emotions are reflecting in your body. Well, how you feel your anger, for example, when you're angry, where you feel it, how you feel your anger. Do you like feeling angry? Huh? When you feel jealous, yeah, when you're dying of jealousy, yeah. You know, there was a great song by Freddie Mercury, by Queen, about jealousy. Yeah, it's a kind of a feeling which is eating us from inside. Yeah, it's our body which is reflecting that. Our body is responding there. So we can notice. Also, we can notice our attachment when we want something strongly. This is a terrible feeling. Usually it's associated with something nice that we want to get, but the feeling of attachment is a very difficult, very heavy feeling, yeah, which is suffering. So we can discover that when we are mindful, when we are aware to what is happening to us. So this is how we are. This is how we are dealing with emotions. Yeah. So, and then the third thing is judgment. The third component of manipulation is judgment. Yeah? So what manipulators want us to make specific judgment. Yeah? For example, they can warn us in a way somebody can warn us about certain people. And when we are fresh, I mean, we have no prejudice, but then somebody with authority is talking to us and telling us some bullshit, yeah, and we may believe that. And now it becomes our idea. Because even though we listen to somebody's judgments, and then we think about this, and when we think, it is already our thought. And when we have our thought, usually we tend to believe it. So the point of manipulations, the aim of a manipulator is to induce in us certain specific thoughts. For example, thoughts that people of this nation, people of this ethnicity are bad people. Yeah. And they show us different examples and they generate also some emotions. But the point is, they want us to think like this. And when we start to think like this is already our own thought. And then it is pinned, it becomes our opinion. Yeah. It is conditioning us. Yeah. So this is how brainwashing is done. This is how we can be brainwashed. And we are being brainwashed from our birth. First of all, we are brainwashed by our parents. It's not because our parents are bad, but they are imposing their ideas. And when we are in a position of weakness, and when we are children, we are mostly in the position of weakness, and they are in the position of authority, it's very natural for us to believe, and then these thoughts become ours, and we don't even remember how we generated our thoughts. So, it can be another situation. It can be a situation when we are very tired. So it's a situation when we are generally vulnerable. Yeah? When we are weak, then we can be easier suggested. Yeah? We more easily we acquire somebody else's thoughts. Yeah? So and then it becomes our thought. And you cannot remove it. If it's our thought, it means I think like this. And for us, it means that it is like this. Because our thinking substitutes the reality. And this is a very important feature of our thinking. This is the purpose of our thinking, to substitute the reality. And this is a great thing. This is not a bad thing. Why? Because when thinking substitutes the reality for us, we can, for example, make a project of a building or a spaceship or power station. If you don't have this kind of thinking, abstract thinking, we cannot build all those things. We cannot build a really spaceship or power station with trying and failing. Of course, there is this aspect too. But still, at least we have some theories. Theory is substituting the reality. So our thinking is substituting the reality. So when we think certain way, it means for us that things are this way. So if we think this person is bad, if you have this thought, this person is bad, we feel this person is bad. And how does it manifest? For example, if somebody with authority is warning us, this person is bad, then when we meet this person, we are cautious. We already interpret whatever this person is saying, whatever this person is doing, through some kind of prism, so some kind of lens. We are interpreting. We have prejudice. Maybe this person didn't do anything wrong, but we have prejudice about this. And I tell you a joke about prejudice. It's not really about thinking, but it's about prejudice in general. And this is a joke from the Soviet time. And in Soviet time, we didn't have many things. We didn't have, for example, you would go to a shop to buy meat, and you go to a meat department, but there is no meat. In meat department, there is no meat, just empty shelves. Or you want to buy beer, you go to the department, but there is no beer. Or where there should be, I don't know, cheese, there is no cheese. Okay, empty shelves. Maybe you can buy some buckwheat. Some pasta, maybe you can buy, maybe not. It doesn't mean that people were starving, but there were many things which were absent. You couldn't buy, sometimes you couldn't buy butter, sometimes you couldn't buy meat, sometimes it was difficult to buy sugar. Nobody was basically starving, so we could eat something else, but we wanted to buy something. It was not there, it was not on shelves, just absent. And we knew, for example, that it can be like this. So a man wants to drink some beer, and he goes to this beer kiosk, the beer shop. And then he sees that this shop is closed, and it is written, there is no beer. And he is erupting. But how can you treat people like this? You could write a normal human way. You could write, there is no beer. No, they've written, there is no beer. See, this is prejudice. So watch this when you are chatting with somebody. Because when you are chatting with somebody, you're reading what is written to you, what is sent to you. You're written with some kind of intonation. And this intonation is not an intonation, is not the intonation of the person who wrote this. This is your own intonation. So this is how the prejudice is formed and how prejudice manifests. And how can we deal with prejudice? Yeah? How can we deal with this prejudice? How can we apply our awareness to recognize this? Of course, there can be a great deal of critical thinking, but critical thinking works only retroactively. Critical thinking only works when already something happened and then we analyze and we understood, oh, we failed, we made a mistake, etc. But what we can do in terms of contemplative practice in order to discover when somebody is trying to impose their judgments, their ideas, impose on us and make us appropriate these judgments and appropriate these ideas. And for this, we need to recognize our thoughts. We need to know what we are thinking about and how we are thinking. So we are observing, we learn to observe our thoughts, our stream of thoughts, and through some mental discipline, through some contemplative exercises, we can detach ourselves from our thoughts. We still have thoughts. For example, let's try to just have a small glimpse into this, and we do some preliminary exercise. Choose some object in front of you, a few objects. And first, concentrate strongly on it, but then release your concentration. Concentrate and immediately release. Yeah, it's like you are touching something with your eyes, for example. Concentrate and release. Concentrate and release. Concentrate and release. And then concentrating, exhale. Concentrate with exhalation. And then inhale, releasing. So do several times with your own pace. You do like this. But don't forget to combine with the breathing, because if you do not add the breathing, then you interrupt your breathing with strong concentration. So concentrate and release. Concentrate and release. Okay, it's fine. So in general, if you do a little bit like this, we can find our mind a little bit clearer. So, and now, can you notice your thoughts? I am saying something. Do you notice your thoughts? Okay, wave your hand if you're noticing your thoughts. Yeah? Is that you who is thinking your thoughts? Are you noticing? Huh? Maybe you can notice that thoughts just appear without you thinking them. So this is an important experience. It's not so difficult to have this experience, in fact. Not that difficult. Yeah? Usually we feel when we have thoughts, oh, this is my thought. No, this is a thought which appears to me. This is not a thought that I'm thinking, but this is a thought that appears to me. For example, if I tell you, don't think about Berlusconi. Yeah. So maybe if I say don't think about white monkey, which is more traditional, maybe it doesn't have that big effect because most of you are Italian. So please don't think about Berlusconi. Did you think about Berlusconi a few seconds ago before I mentioned his name? No, probably not. Maybe it's been 1 year you didn't think about Berlusconi. But now, can you stop thinking about Berlusconi? Oh shit, no? You see how it happens. Is that your thought? Do you feel that it is you who is intentionally thinking about Berlusconi, or this thought is just appearing in your mind because of some alien interference? And you notice, first you can understand it very clearly that this thought appeared not because you wanted to think it, but because I mentioned Berlusconi. I'm sorry if you have bad dreams tonight, but this is a trade-off. I mean, so this is the thing. But when we train ourselves and when we train like alternating concentration and relaxation, then we can notice, thoughts are just popping up. You have thoughts now. You have thoughts. But how do you notice your thoughts? From where are you looking at your thoughts at the moment? You're not seeing your thoughts. You're not hearing your thoughts with ears. You can plug your ears, but you will continue to hear it, to perceive your thoughts. You're not smelling, you're not tasting thoughts. But you are clearly experiencing thoughts. But from where are you looking at thoughts? So when we try to discover from where we are looking at thoughts, from where we are observing our thoughts, when we're trying to discover that, then we can experience this state of being separated from our thoughts. So it's not that we are thinking these thoughts, but these thoughts appear to us. And when they appear to us, they have no power. This is the point. When we are thinking thoughts, these thoughts have power over us. These thoughts shape our perception and guide our actions. But when because this is our thought, it's like a deep part of us. But when we notice that these thoughts are just thoughts, and we remain very clearly noticing our thoughts. Like, for example, I'm talking to you, but I'm also aware of my thoughts which are happening at the moment. Like, I'm noticing what kind of thoughts I have when I'm looking at you. I have 25 people on my screen. I'm sorry, I cannot see everyone. But also, I'm webcasting this talk on Clubhouse, and I can see few people in the audience popping up and moving out. And I have thoughts about this, and I notice these thoughts, but they're just appearing. I am not obliged to act. These thoughts have no power. These thoughts help me to fix what's happening, to remember what was happening, but these thoughts do not have any power to make me do something, to react compulsively onto these thoughts. So this is the way. So when somebody is telling us, this person is doing terrible things, if we have this kind of separation, we can notice that you have a thought, oh, this person is doing terrible thing, but this is just a thought that appears to you. This is not a reality. This is your thought. So when you're watching TV and from TV, they're saying this country is so terrible, we need to nuke it. We need to bomb this country because it is so terrible. When you have this separation, you discover that this is not that this country is terrible, but somebody is saying that this country is terrible. You just have a thought that this country is terrible, etc. And then this thought has no power over you. We become free. So in this way, in this way, nobody can brainwash us. Of course, they can be very tricky and they can find ways when we are distracted, for example. But if you are always present, while we are present, while we remain this kind of observation that thoughts are popping up, it's very difficult to brainwash us in this condition. Very difficult. So if somebody is using brainwashing and imposing thoughts to manipulate us, if we are in this condition, it's very difficult to affect us. Yeah? And we can be immune to this kind of manipulation. So this is the third important factor of manipulations. And this is the factor of judgments and ideas and thoughts which are shaping reality and substituting reality for us. Yeah. And then we have number 4, which is using all first 3. So number 1 was attention. Number 2 was emotion or feeling. And number 3 was judgment or ideas or beliefs or thoughts. Yeah. So 3 things. And the fourth one is vision. And this is the strongest, because it's not only we judge something this way, but we have a bigger vision. We have a kind of a worldview which has nothing to do with reality. Yeah. So, and this worldview is induced in us, and we, instead of operating and functioning in a more or less real world, more or less, I don't want to go deeper into this topic of reality and delusion, but this imposed idea is definitely an illusion. And for example, if we have a kind of a religious education, we have an idea of heaven and hell. Yeah? We have an idea of Almighty God who is watching us and controlling our actions. Or maybe if we have a kind of communist education, we have an idea that there are different classes and there is a world revolution, etc. And we live in the best country. When I lived in the Soviet Union, I believed I lived in the best country in the world. Yeah, really, I believed when I was a teenager. But then I discovered there are other countries, and then I went to other countries, and then I understood that maybe it was not like that. But now I'm growing older and I understand maybe I was not that wrong when I was a teenager, because when you can compare and when you have more information, then you don't make this binary judgment, good or bad, and you can see many things. But when you're brainwashed, you see in some things you only see good things, in other things you see only bad things. Yeah, and you have a worldview, and also this kind of worldview, you know, for example, in literature or in movies, which kind of books, which books become most popular, which movies become most popular, become cult movies and cult books. Yeah, the books and movies, they create a new world. Yeah, the better they create a new world, the more popular they become. So people believe in Jedis. You see, this is like Star Wars. Yeah, I've never been a fan of Star Wars. I was always finding this movie being very primitive and not interesting, not fascinating at all. But then when I started to communicate with people from the United States, then I discovered that they are all fascinated by, many of them are fascinated by Star Wars. But I can understand why, because this is a world. Yeah, this is a vision, you know, cosmic vision of Jedis, you know, some forces of good and evil, etc. And then people start to live in that. Yeah? You see, even there is a religion called Judaism, not Judaism, which has basically the same nature, yeah, but Judaism. Yeah. So, and then we live in this imaginary world. And this is a big scale thing. Yeah. Or another big scale thing is that our nation is the most important nation. We have the mission to put the world in order. Yeah. Well, at the moment, this nation has a total mess in their country. But at least like 70 or 80 years ago, they had an idea that they have a mission to put this world in order. And certain countries they domesticate, and certain countries they eliminate. Yeah. So certain nations, for example. But that was a worldview. That was a cosmic vision of their mission. The same story was with communist countries. That the people there had a mission, a vision of eternal revolution, or like a revolution that is international, goes international, etc. Because we need to liberate the world. This is the mission. And of course, nowadays, like later, like capitalism, they had the same idea that we have the best system and we want to liberate the world. It didn't work in either case. It didn't work so well. So, but this is a vision. This is a big scale vision, but there can be small scale vision. Yeah. For example, watch advertising. Yeah. I love watching advertising. It's really good because they know how to do this stuff. For example, they want to sell you a washing machine. Yeah. And who they target? They target women. You know, they target women. They find the target. Yeah? For men, they sell something else, but they target women. And what they show you and what kind of vision they want to induce in you. Yeah? It's not that they are selling machine, but they sell the whole world. This world is not big. It's very cozy. And it looks like a very nice, tiny, neat house. Yeah. Very, very beautiful house, very, very clean. Yeah, because this is about washing machine, so everything have to be clean. And in this house, you have a very nice, funny, and very, very clean children. And then there is a very handsome husband in this house. Yeah, very handsome and masculine, but with so many good qualities, a kind of a dream. Yeah, from a dream. So you have a vision. So what you're buying a dream of having this kind of house, having this kind of children, and having this kind of a husband. Yeah. But you cannot buy vision, no? So you buy a washing machine. See? So this is how it works. Yeah. This is how it works. And they sell a lot. So this is the vision. And how can we recognize this? How can we recognize this? How can we not let other people manipulate us? It doesn't mean we have to block all visions. For example, when we go to a movie or theater, this is what we need. Yeah. Otherwise, we just see stains on the screen, or we just see some stupid people walking on stage pretending that they are kings or warriors or somebody else, etc. No, then we cannot enjoy the movie or play. But we need the ability to control it. So we need to recognize our vision. And the essence is that we need to discover the difference in real time, not a posteriori, but in real time, we have to discover the difference between what we perceive through our senses, including mind, and what we think about our perception. The difference between direct perception through senses and mental representations of what we are perceiving, because our mind is stronger than our senses. And I can give you a very simple example when how the mind is stronger than senses. Yeah, you look around, for example. Yeah? Look up and down. Look around. What is moving? Your room or your head? What is your idea? The head, yeah? But what happens in your vision? What is really moving? So if you take a GoPro camera, for example, if you take GoPro camera, you put it on your forehead and you record what you see, and then you watch the recording, then you will see that everything is moving. Yeah, that your room is moving, walls are moving. Yeah, this is what you see. Yeah? Because this is what you see. Yeah? When we are walking on street, with every hour step, buildings are jumping. But we feel it is us who is jumping. Yeah? This is how we feel, because we know this is us who are jumping. This is not buildings who are jumping. We know this, but this is not what we see. Yeah? When we look at other people, we see they are jumping when they are walking, but buildings are not jumping. But then when we see, we know that we are jumping, but we don't see that buildings are jumping. Yeah? So this is an example that our mind is stronger than our senses, because we know that buildings are not jumping, so we don't see them jumping. Yeah? There is a scientific explanation why it is like this, and it is explored. This mechanism is explored. But what I want to show is that our framing, mental framing of our perception is stronger than the perception itself. The reason is it's easier to calculate our mental representation than to calculate the reality. So this is a simplified version of the reality. So this is an example. And when we have vision, we take this vision for reality. Not just thoughts and judgments, but the whole vision, which is three-dimensional, with sounds and also smells and everything. We take this vision for the reality while our senses are not perceiving that. So this is how we interpret what we see, but this is not what we see. And we can recognize it. And as an exercise, so we are approaching to the end of our talk. We started a little bit later, so we still have a few minutes. And imagine the universe, the world you live in. Imagine the universe. Okay, so did you imagine the universe? And then if your universe is dark, black, infinite, with a little bit of stars here and there, raise your hand. Yeah, you see, for most people, it is like this. Yeah, our universe is dark. Why? Why universe is dark? Why your universe is dark? For example, for most of you, it's still daytime. Yeah, for me, it's already dark outside, but in Italy, there is still light. Yeah, I can see from the windows. So why our universe is dark? Why almost never we imagine universe as light, but we imagine it as dark? Yeah? Because how we were introduced to the universe. We went outside in the night, and our dad or our mom would show up and say, look, this is universe. You see, stars, this is universe. Or we go to planetarium, and in planetarium, what they do what is the first thing they do? They turn off the light, and they show you universe with light turned off. Yeah. So this is our first impression. And then when we look at the map, sky map, the map of these constellations, it's even printed with white on black. You know, normal maps are printed colors or black on white. Yeah, but maps of universe are usually printed white on black. So this is a kind of an imprint that we have. Yeah, universe is black, is dark. Yeah, and then our idea of living in this universe is already dramatic. No, already we feel something, because when we look at the sky in the daytime, do we see universe? No, it's just sky. Yeah, it's not universe. It's just a sky, not dramatic. Yeah, you see, but universe is dramatic. Yeah, and then our life story becomes a drama. Yeah, so this is an example. Yeah, so now what we do now, but this is just an image appearing in our minds. No, this black universe, etc. So imagine yourself with your whole history, like just recollect your feeling of yourselves, yeah, who you are with your story, etc. And then you have a kind of imagery, maybe not very precise, but general vague image is okay. And the image of this world, yeah, the image of this world, black universe, solar system, sun is somewhere, then other planets are somewhere, moon is somewhere, yeah, and then other galaxies around our Milky Way, etc. So something vague, general idea. This is you and this is the world you live in. And these are just your ideas. This is just your imagination, real sense. So what do? You imagine a flash of light which erases or overshadows all these imaginary universe and imaginary you. So it's like in the movie, when in the middle of the movie, then somebody in the cinema is turning on the light, and then all stains, all these projections on the screen are overshadowed. Yeah. So in the same way, you imagine yourself in this infinite black universe, yourself with your body, with your history, personal history, with whatever you call yourself. Not yourself, like with the capital S, no, but yourself. Yeah. How you feel yourself. Revolve this into your imagination. And then imagine just light overshadowing all this, and all these images disappear like shadows are disappearing when you turn on the light. And there is just your presence in the open space. And how you feel. So if again you have an idea of you and where you live and the universe where you live, just a flash of light. And then you notice how easily it all disappears. Yeah? And then you understand this is imagination. This is not real. Yeah? So if you train like this, and there are many other ways how we can train, discovering that this is just manifestations of our minds. This is just our creative capacity, our creative potential, which is manifesting as a vision. And then when you're watching some advertising, and then you know how this imagery is appearing in you, and you are no longer fooled by that. You discover this is just imagination. It's not bad to have imagination. That's a great thing. This is great capacity. But somebody can use that for their own purposes, use our imagination for their purposes. But in this way, we can discover this is imagination. So the point is not to block our imagination. The point is to recognize when it is imagination and not reality, and not to be fooled by this vision, not to be fooled by this imagination. Okay, so I think that's enough. I talked enough, and I think I could give a general picture of how manipulations are performed, which are the key point. It's not everything. It's not exhaustive. Definitely, I could speak for another 2 hours easily about all these kind of things, but it's not necessary. So in this way, we can be manipulated. And I also try to show different methods which refer to contemplative practices that can neutralize, that can help us notice we are being manipulated, and then neutralize these manipulations. And we don't need to kill anyone to neutralize these manipulations, yeah, which is good, yeah. Less problems. Really, it's usually better to solve things without killing anyone. So I want to remind you that 4 main aspects of manipulations are: first, grabbing attention. Somebody is grabbing our attention, is catching our attention. And we can recognize this and neutralize this through developing the skill of mindfulness, when we are in control of our attention, when we know and notice not only what we attend to, but we notice how our attention is moving from one thing to another, when we notice where our attention is at this moment and when it is no longer there. Yeah? So this is number 1. Number 2 is emotions and feelings, which can be used for manipulating. And the way to deal with that is to train ourselves and notice how our bodies and our minds react when we are experiencing different emotions. Not for not being overwhelmed by these emotions, for not being driven by these emotions, but noticing, oh, my body is getting tense, I'm starting to think certain way, and usually these are cliches, what we think in emotional states. Yeah? And how my breathing is, and then maybe you just need to exhale. Sometimes that's enough. But we need to notice, and we develop this skill through being mindful of our state, and through exercising and training and generating different emotions in ourselves, triggering different emotions in ourselves. We can learn the pathways of these emotions, how these emotions are generated in our bodies and how they pass through all our system, and let them pass, not holding them in our body. Yeah? So this is number 2. Number 3 is the thoughts and judgments and beliefs, yeah? And which can be imposed on us, framing our perception, and guiding, driving our actions in a certain way. So how we can deal with that? So we need to learn to recognize that our thoughts are just thoughts, that it is not us who are thinking them, but these are just thoughts that appear to us, that manifest in our condition. And noticing these are just thoughts, and then these thoughts lose their power over us. So this is number 3. And then number 4 is about vision. And the vision is that we understand that what we perceive mentally, our imagination, is not the same what's happening really, and what we can perceive through senses. Yeah. This is just a model. This is mental representation. This is an imagery. So through exercises, through different exercises that also involve creative imagination, yeah, that involve working with internal light, for example, we can discover this capacity, build this capacity to discover this is my imagination. We are not deleting this capacity. We are just discovering the difference, and we are no longer fooled by this capacity. We need it. We need this imagination. It would be very difficult to live in the world without having this capacity to mentally represent the world and to act. Yeah? But we are fooled, and we take what we think and what we imagine, we take for reality, for what is there. So when we learn to see the difference, that this is imagination, this is not the reality, then even though they are trying to sell us brave new world with all possible washing machines or Ferraris or beers, etc. So for example, then some beer they sell you with the dream that your team is winning on the world championship, football championship. Yeah, it's not you just getting a beer. You're getting a victory on the world championship. Yeah, it's not you're just getting some kind of martini, but you are getting martini with a beautiful girl. You know, something like this. So you are no longer fooled by all that. Yeah? So if we have this capacity to discover which is imagination and which is so-called reality. Yeah, so-called. We don't go deeper into this because this is a topic for another week, not just for another 2 hours. So this is what I wanted to tell you, and I summarized, and I hope that it was useful and interesting for you and that you enjoy that. And I tried also to manipulate you a little bit, but in a meaningful and beneficial way. Yeah? And I'm sure now you can recognize what I was doing and how I was doing during this talk, and we can still enjoy. Okay, I'm done. Thank you for your attention. If you have questions, please, you can ask questions. Also, I can have questions. I have some people on Clubhouse, and I think maybe they want to ask questions. Then I give them opportunity to raise their hands and to ask a question. Yes. Okay. Okay. So first of all, I would like to see if somebody in the audience in Bologna or some other places, if you have questions. Oh, no questions. That's nice. Yeah, because sometimes if you have questions, you just observe these questions, where they come from, and you discover these questions are just questions, nothing special. Okay. So then if you have no questions, and I'm very happy, and people on Clubhouse, they have questions. So, but since you have no questions, that probably I will leave you for now. And maybe Paolo wants to say something, because Paolo has many interesting ideas. And I hope he will say these ideas, but not too long. And then I can talk to my friends on Clubhouse who want to ask some questions. Okay.
Yeah. First of all,
Just a second, Paolo. Luna wants to ask question, and she usually has very
Luna.
very good questions. Yeah.
Hello. Well, I'm very curious about the questions on the Clubhouse too, so I don't know if it's possible to share it.
Yeah, come to Clubhouse. Yeah, come to Clubhouse. And here I have great people now in the audience on stage. Yeah, really. I'm enjoying discussions with them.
Okay, so I will be curious how to join this, but maybe there was one just a representation, because I see the like the structure, how you said it, and I see how it unfolds. Like someone, basically, it all comes to the essence that why it's so meaningful to be present and why it's so meaningful to be really in the awareness and presence. But then I think like how the activity then unfolds someone, you know, because it was like lots of bits coming together, but how the activity of one comes, like, because there is always an exchange, right? There's always exchange of like impact on you, and then there is all this happening, and then you are really present, let's say, so you recognize these things, but then your activity comes just from being present, and that's the only thing that purifies it, because you're not falling into the idea.
Yes.
And that's it.
It becomes a spontaneous activity, spontaneous manifestation of your inner nature. So somehow this is how our inner nature can manifest, which is something authentic. Then our actions become authentic because they are not driven by other people's ideas. They are not driven by emotions which are artificially induced in us, and emotions that we are taught from the childhood. We are taught to experience certain emotions in certain situations. Yeah. For example, when somebody dies, then we are taught we have to feel grief. Yeah. Yeah, but we can feel joy. Yeah. Sometimes when old people die, yeah, or people who are very, very sick, they die, I feel genuine joy. I'm happy for these people, really. I'm very happy that they are no longer suffering terribly. Yeah, but if I show publicly that I feel joy instead of grief, it's a little bit tricky, yeah. So, but if you are not conditioned by these artificial, I don't say that emotions are artificial, but the ways we are taught to experience them are artificial. I mean, this is like required emotion. So you have to be very solemn or serious, etc., instead of being very light and joyful, etc. But then when you're not conditioned by that, then you experience spontaneous emotions and then spontaneous actions in which there is no egoism. Because in this condition, you are not going to manipulate anyone.
Okay, because I feel this very, very in a direct exchange, as I was saying, that I'm like empathic, really strong empath. So when I experience beings, I can feel already the thought process and energy, how it exchanged. And this was a big step for me. I just to be very relaxed. Thanks. Also, you see, when we had the different sessions with you, I had much more like clear vision and clear, not even vision, like experience and insight, you know, so that insight. And so I could see that actually, first of all, what you were always saying is like when I'm thinking, immediately it goes into my habitual pattern. I don't even know how. It's just the movement or it creates it. So there's this reactivity. So in a direct interaction of like the elements kind of, because it's like one universe of someone and me, and it's a duality, but in the same time, when you are relaxed, then you can all perceive it and you don't feel the tensions. So then your activity is much more free, just going accordingly, but you still stay present. So you're not attached.
Yes. Yeah. So instead of being reactive, you become proactive. This is the point.
So it's spontaneous flows. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Please, Paolo, your final word.
No, as a few people is still in the audience, I invite those in the audience to write to Foundation email account in order to let us know if they are interested to deepen the topic about this conference in order to organize a course of at least 10 hours done by Igor and translated by Edith. In this occasion, I thank Edith very much for.
Oh, she says no.
Yeah. So let us know if you are interested.
Okay.
Because we are thinking to organize a course to deepen through the contemplative techniques how to deal with our thoughts, etc. This is our intention, isn't it, Igor?
Yes, yeah. I'm happy to have this proposal from you, Paolo, to give a course on dealing with manipulations through contemplative method. So if you can make it, I'm very happy. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for organizing this meeting. I enjoyed it very much, even though I was entertaining myself. But I hope that I could also entertain you as well. So, you know, there is this edutainment, education with entertainment. And I think that learning something should be fun. Yeah, should be joy. It's great. Okay. Nice to see. Nice to see all of you. And I will go to my friends on Clubhouse.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
We'll upload the recordings. Okay, we'll see. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Ciao,
Bye-bye.
Igor.
Bye-bye.